So today's roundtable is all about financial stuff for conservation districts, and I don't really have anything prepared. It's been kind of a hairy couple of weeks here, but I would love to hear questions from folks who either are new or who run into things that they have questions about, or I'd love to hear from folks who have been on a while and have any wisdom to impart to the bigger group. There's a lot with financial stuff for the districts. I mean, I know that it varies from district to district, basically, that some districts do a lot of their financial stuff through their county. Some districts do it all themselves, and some are somewhere in between. So I guess if anybody has, first question is, who's on the iPhone, just out of curiosity?
Did it just join?
Yeah.
Dusty Olson.
You, Dusty. Thank you, Dusty.
Yes.
I do keep track of who comes on these. So Julie and Dusty, you guys have been on a while. Is there anything that jumps right out to you that in regard to financial concerns for districts that we should probably talk about today?
Oh,
Nothing like putting you on the spot, right?
well, I'm trying to, my computer's all, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if I was muted or not. And
No, I can
got
hear you.
everything small and I can't find anything. I don't know what's going on. I just think one thing for sure I've noticed in some districts, it's like making sure, that for financial, if you're thinking about, your liabilities with, your payroll liabilities, your 941, paying that timely monthly, realizing that QuickBooks doesn't send, sometimes they do if you have all the right boxes checked, but generally there's, you might have to do a couple of different, you're gonna have to go to the state and work on, do this, the withholding for the state, and you're gonna have to go to the unemployment to do your unemployment, and some of that's, some of that stuff gets, they don't realize they have to do it, or I'm not sure what happens, but I think there's been districts that have gotten into trouble with not doing those timely or even doing them at all. And so then they end up with fines and stuff. So I guess that's one thing that I've noticed or heard about that, if somebody has any questions on that.
The other thing tied in with that one is quarterly reporting. So some districts do those payroll liability payments on a monthly basis. Some do them on a quarterly basis. I'm not sure how the state decides that. Do you know how the state decides that, Julie?
I think it's based on how much your payroll is, but I thought they were all monthly now.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think
I do know that there's a fine associated too if you are supposed to be monthly, even if you were used to be quarterly. Then it's based on how much. So like 6 months a year or a little less, it's only me. So we could do quarterly, but the rest of the year we have all these boat inspectors, so we pay so much more. And I fell into the trap of doing it quarterly when it was just me, and we actually got some fines because half the year we pay so much more. So just really being in touch with just straight up the IRS 1-800 number, which was a pain in the butt, but knowing what your individual requirements were to avoid those fines, because it was 10%, which thank goodness it was on the quarters, it was just me. But if you happen to have whatever field work employees and you're paying out 10% in our busy season, would have been a lot.
Yeah, boy, that would be a lot. I hate it when I get a letter from the IRS because I never know what I screwed up, right? I've only gotten a few over the years. I think now that I'm going back to doing manual payroll, and it's been a while since I did my monthly payroll reports, and so this is kind of a timely topic for me. I know that in years past when I've worked on this, I always did my payroll reporting my monthly payroll reporting and deposit before the end of the month. So I scheduled it for the last business day of the month. And that's a habit I got into from a previous MACD employee who was sort of our financial guru at the time. She always recommended paying your monthly payroll liabilities the month that they're paid rather than the month that they're due. But I think it's the big thing is consistency for month to month, making sure that you're consistently doing it at the same time. Because they're not due till the 15th of the following month, but that's just something that I do. I pay them at the end of the month. So I may actually be calling with questions, Julie, because I am doing them again on my own. But yeah. Comment in the chat that Kathy Johnson at Deer Lodge CD has a local accountant that they pay $250 a quarter to do all their payroll stuff. And I would agree, it is a worthwhile payment. We had that for a while. The company that did our our quarterlies, though, demanded that we go to their payroll subscription service about 2 years ago. And then in December, I got an email from them, and we did that. In December, I got an email from them that we weren't spending enough money with them. So we either had to spend more money on their products or they were going to drop us. And so we're back to doing it on our own because I can't find anybody who will do it for cheaper here around here. And, it's just been a hassle. So, Angie said she does all the payroll, all the financial payroll, 941, et cetera. She says it can be a lot to learn, but once you do have a system and have it done a few times, it's not bad. And I would agree with that. It's a matter of, printing the right reports, knowing which numbers you're looking at and being consistent about how you're doing it from month to month and quarter to quarter. I know Sharon isn't on. Sharon Flametis but she's got a tracking document that she uses because she said that QuickBooks reports for her don't always match up to what the actuals are. And I've never encountered that, but she keeps a tracking sheet on Excel for all of her employee payouts on a month-to-month basis or paycheck to paycheck basis, and then tallies that up and make sure it matches with QuickBooks reports. So I thought that was interesting.
I think what some people, and I'm not a payroll expert by any means, but some people think that, so like if you pay December's payroll in January, that check is, that goes on 2023's. So like if you're talking 2022 December payroll and you pay it January 2nd or 3rd, that goes on 2023's wages, because it's when you write the check. And I think that's probably what some people look at is with QuickBooks is but I've always learned is like the date you write the check is the date you use for. So if you wrote a check, you're writing your payroll, and I do mine monthly because it's just easier. I don't have to try to track down and I just wait for my board meeting to get my check signed. Granted, when I'm gone, that may change. Someone else may decide they want to do it, bi-weekly, or they want their paychecks oftener or whatever. I mean, and I think there's a whole set of rules. You have so many days to, which I'm sure we stretch sometimes when our meeting is the latest of the month, but I mean, it's okay with me. So it's like but other people, like I said, it might be different. So I think that's something that always kind of throws some people. It's like, it's kind of the date and year you write the check in is the date and year that payroll goes with. So I think, and that goes back to like when you do your payroll, you're paying your December payroll liabilities in January. I mean, they're due in January, I guess I should say. So for December. So it can sometimes throw people and get confusing. So.
Right. And that's where I think really consistency comes in, and having some kind of footprint for the people that follow you as to what your system is. Follow your district's pay schedule, whatever that is. I know some of us probably get paid monthly. I get paid every other week. And that was just set up before I came on. And so, following the payroll schedule, following how your district pays their payroll liabilities, whether you pay it the month that they're due or you pay them the month that they're incurred. Those are all things just to kind of keep a consistent a system on doing those. Payroll sucks, man. Any questions on payroll stuff so far? Comments? Quarterly reports? Anything on quarterly reports that anybody wants to talk about? See, I've never done a quarterly report for my district. We always had an accountant do them, and then the payroll people took them over. And so now I get to do those too. So yay me.
They're not bad. You're being just fine.
Right. I mean, it's just I've actually found mistakes. I've found mistakes that the accountants did and had to call them on it before. So it's not like they're that hard. It's just one more thing to remember, right?
Yeah. And sometimes you get going and you're like going, oh my gosh, did I do my 941? Did I send that off? Because it is a quarterly thing. And I think it's getting where you can do that one electronically. I haven't delved into it yet, but I keep seeing stuff that you can do it electronically. So I think you just have to sign up with the IRS to do that. So
those are just due. Those are just due by the end of the month, right? Of following the quarter.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm learning today too. Somebody else was trying to say something. Was that you, Dusty?
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. I was just saying I've never heard or seen it electronically, but it would kind of be a game changer for me.
Well,
just
we'll
because
track that
we do monthly, and we have 7.5 months a year where we have lots to report. So it would be cool to do it electronically.
You're talking the 941.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was reading about it this. So I'll look into it more, and then
if you see something, share, and I might go
give it.
investigating. But just one more thing to be done easier.
Oh yeah, it's just because then it's there. And besides the mail anymore,
right? I've had more mail get lost in the last year. I can't even believe how much mail has gotten lost in the last year.
I'm gonna get a letter from here to
chat.
Richie.
Which I also know, like I've done them pretty close to my deadline, and I know the mail out of Jordan is terrible. As long as I've always included, I send a copy of, so we make our payments monthly, but we only have to do mail in our report quarterly. As long as my printed payment confirmation that was done on the correct dates, sometimes I know it's not getting to them till a week or so after the deadline, but I've never had any trouble with those ones just because my payments were made on time.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's just I think I don't even know if they look at the postmark anymore. I think because it is just a report.
Right.
So I did put a link. I did put a link in the chat. Oh, sorry. I did put a link in the chat about the that's the IRS page on electronically filing tax forms. So and the 941 is part of that. So if you're interested. Diane, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
You're fine. I was just going to say, when I hooked my 941 payment and filing to my QuickBooks, it was the EFTPS website that I had to sign up for and put into my QuickBooks. And that's who accepts all of my 941 payments and stuff that way. I don't know if it works different, if you're not doing QuickBooks, but that's
so is that for your monthly payment, or is that included your quarterly report?
Both.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look into that.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and I do want to say that somebody asked in the chat if we wanted to talk about budget development, and yeah, sure, that's financial. We can talk budget development if you guys want to. Have we beat the payroll and quarterly report horse to death yet? Any other questions or comments on that? Dusty, you unmuted for a second. Are you Want to
No,
talk?
I was just gonna say, yep, I think we did, if no one has any questions.
Okay. So, I mean, you guys, everybody who's on here knows who to go to for questions, because they're the ones who've been talking about it. Besides me, don't come to me because I'm a rookie at this. Angie says you can set up both the 941 and the Montana revenue electronically for quarterlies, Angie? Yes. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to have to look into that in the next month or so before I have to do my next quarterly reports. Okay. All right. If nobody has anything else to talk about on the payroll and quarterly side, let's move on. The next topic, I guess, is going to be budgets, unless there's something else people want to talk about. Budget's good.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what people have to say. We're changing our budget so much for this next admin grant. Like, we've been talking about it for however long, right? A year and a half. And we're going to jump on the gun and try to make some pretty big operational changes. And the budget is, we talked a lot at the last board meeting. So I want to hear what people have to say.
So I guess, I mean, I guess I always thought budgets were hard and scary until the same person was talking about earlier. She was really helpful on the budget side of things for me. I mean, a budget is just a plan. It's not, you know, how much basically theoretically you have coming in, right? Because we know what our mill levy is roughly. We know what grants we're probably going to have. Usually, I mean, things change, but you know, generally what you're going to have coming in. You can also figure out what you spent last year, which is part of the puzzle. So what you spent last year, and then you can sort of guess or theorize about what you're going to spend this next year. I've been doing a budget for the district since I started, and I guess I don't find that it's that complicated. I tend to be a conservative fiscal person. So we're almost always under budget when at the end of the year, but not on some things we're going to be over and some things will be under, but typically we come in under budget. One of the key things with a budget is determining whether your district wants it to be a balanced budget, which means, you know, your income and your expenses are the same. And that's what most typical budgets are supposed to be, is a balanced budget.
Dallas, you there?
But beyond that, it's sort of up to your district how they want to spend their money, right? I guess my question for you, Dusty, is specifically, what are you looking for from others on how they do their budget?
I don't know. We're just making some bigger changes. One thing I think I know how to theorize on is we are gonna bite the bullet and hire additional staff for the first time ever. But
Oops, I'm sorry. I muted you by accident. I was trying to mute somebody else and I muted you, Dusty.
here I am. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Just kind of, I guess, I don't know. I'm just really curious. I was saying that we're going to hire additional staff for the first time. Oh, hold on. For the first time ever. And I think just based on overall, like, salary wise or not salary, but then whatever, I think I got that. But they also want to pick up some grants that we've never done before, or at least in my stint, and just things we've never done before, budgeting for that for the first time. Maybe I'm just feeling overwhelmed, but I just want to listen to how everyone is. Is anyone else like applying for the admin grant specifically? Like, are you reaching for the stars or not yet this year? Are you waiting? How's that going?
Well, I mean, we don't get the admin grants, so I'm not budgeting for it, but I usually look at the grants that we have that we think we're going to spend out the next year, and I figure that in. I'm going to just pull up my budget so that folks can see. I mean, if people want to look at a budget, we can look at our budget, I guess. If I can find it. Oh boy. I think it's under my memorized reports.
Chris, does your budget follow QuickBooks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. But I mean, you don't have to do a budget in QuickBooks. I think it makes it.
We do ours in Excel, but it does follow the QuickBooks, all of the QuickBooks categories and things.
Yeah. I think it's helpful in reporting if you're using QuickBooks to do your reports. It's quicker. Can everybody see that?
Too small.
Too small. I don't know how to make it bigger. Hang on a second. Just a second. Let me see if I can figure out how to make it bigger. Anybody remember how to make a
I
budget
changed
bigger in
my
QuickBooks?
view. I changed my view options and now I can read it.
Okay. Can everybody else read it? Why don't I just print it to a report?
I don't think this is going to help anyone else, but because I'm on my iPhone, I could just zoom in on whatever part I want.
Okay.
No, doesn't help.
Sorry.
Let me do a save as PDF. Where do I want to save it? I want to save it to a junk file. Sorry, I should have thought about this before the meeting. Come on, computer. Documents, junk, budget. And then I'll go find it. It's always good to know where you save something to, right? All right, so our budget is based, oh, good grief, that's even smaller. Hang on. Sorry, guys, this is slow. Stop share. And I'm working with 3 screens, which makes it kind of confusing. 2 screens is confusing enough. All right, so here's our 2023 budget. I know what I levy for the permissive mill. I know roughly what our mill levy is going to be from the county. I guesstimate what our administrative fee is going to be from grants and what we're going to spend in grants this year. And then I just sort of, based on last year's year-end report and what we spent, I go in and I assign a draft amount for each topic or each line item. And then take it to the board and have them review it based on last year's, and then they make recommendations for any changes. And that's where our budget comes from. I mean, so Dusty, what I would do for you guys is figure out what all your categories are, where you spent your money and how much you spent in each category. And then, highlight stuff that is going to change or that you want to have change, and guesstimate what those changes are going to be in income and expenses. And then go from there. And I mean, it really is more of I look at it as more of an art than a science, because you're guessing kind of what next year's stuff is going to be.
Yeah. And I think maybe I'm just thinking way too much into it. We know we're in an experiment, I guess, but just having that additional person,
It's
what
scary.
capacity will they build? Like, not just their income and their benefits, but like, are we going to have more sales of stuff because we have more people on board? Hopefully they're going to take over our social media. Are we going to grow because of that? Like, just all of those unknowns, just having the capacity of another person.
And we were there in 2020.
Yeah.
I added a person in 2020 full-time towards the end of the year, and I added a full-time person under an NACD grant. And I didn't have a clue what it was going to do, because we'd never really hired anybody full-time before besides me. And it is sort of scary, and it is sort of an experiment with that first budget. And, it may be totally wonky, but it's just a budget. It's not anything right or wrong. It's just a plan for how you think you're going to spend your money. One tool that I learned from my friend Jan, who Julie Goss remembers, this line here, this 480606, the special projects line, that's where I put. So if I do my draft budget and I have way more income than I think I'm going to have, or I have way more income, so it's in the black budget instead of in the red or zero, then that's where I put the leftovers. I put it in special projects. And then if the board comes up with things that they want to spend some of our extra funding on, that's where we spend it out of. Like, for example, I got an email from a fisheries biologist. We've been dealing with a nasty irrigation diversion for decades, and the landowner is finally interested in changing it out, fixing the diversion, and putting in a fish screen. And so they went to Fish, Wildlife and Parks. They got some future fisheries money, but they didn't get all of it. And they're short because future fisheries wouldn't do contingency funds. They're short $5,000. And so Adam Strainer called me and asked if we could maybe help out or figure out a way to help out. And I went searching for grant money, and there's no grant money that would work that's open right now, because they need it now. And so the board is probably going to kick in some money, and that's the fund it'll come out of, is special projects. So that's how I balance my budget. I use that fund right there. And that's how I do my budget. I guess the more you do them, the less scary they are. It's like anything else. But just keep in mind that a budget is just a budget. It's not a hard and fast rule on how you have to spend your money. It's a guess as to how you're going to spend your money. Some boards may not look at it that way, but we're not perfect. We're not going to guess correctly from year to year. I go over on things, I go under on things. It's just what it is, right? Any other questions on how I do my budget, or other questions on budgets in general?
Would you mind sharing a copy of that via email? I'd like to have a chance to look at all of your categories and
Sure.
to adjust. I mean, some of my categories, every month we go through our financial report and I think, gosh, this doesn't fit here. It should fit here. And since I don't do QuickBooks, I always have to go back to the accountant and say, what the heck is this?
Right. And I don't know who set up your QuickBooks, your chart of accounts. Maybe it's something that's been the way it is for a long time, but there's, I don't even remember how long ago it was. Julie might remember, but it was recommended that conservation districts utilize the BAR's chart of accounts, because it makes their Department of Administration report flow better.
Okay.
And that BAR's chart of accounts, I'm looking for it and I'm having trouble finding it. That BAR's chart of accounts information, that's how I took my old chart of accounts that my predecessor had set up. And when that was recommended to us, I sat down with that recommendation and my chart of accounts, and I think it's all within those numbers. And I changed my numbers to their numbers and rearranged all of my accounts to fit within their categories as best as I could. And so that's why mine is the way it is. And I don't always have the numbers turned on because they confuse the board sometimes, but I don't really think about them so much anymore either.
That's great, Chris.
But yeah, I'd be happy to share it with you. And I'll track down the BAR's information. I'll make a note to track down the BAR's information and include it.
I have another question that probably doesn't have as much to do with budget, except for income. We are considering trying to make it more publicly known that we can accept donations or sponsorships. And I know that our Big Sky watershed person may have talked to you, Chris, about your sponsorship button.
Yep.
And what is your mechanism for receiving funds? Like, do you have a PayPal or?
I have a PayPal. I also accept checks.
I like checks.
Well, other than the fact that they get lost in the mail lately, it seems like, yes, I like checks too. But I use the PayPal. button that I have on our website. That's fairly new. It's new in the last 4 or 5 years that I started accepting sponsorships via PayPal.
Do you get very many?
You know, it's varied over the years. We used to have a huge pile of them because we had time to spend on soliciting the sponsorships. I hate asking for money. I hate it. So I'm not real good at soliciting sponsorships. I just sort of let people sponsor us who want to. I'm looking for that sheet in the handbook. So several years ago, Gary at Jefferson Valley CD did some research and discovered that conservation districts can indeed accept tax-free donations, you know, so people can tax deductible donations. That's what I was looking for. Sorry. And we wrote away to the IRS based on what he provided to the districts that year. And that form or that letter from him or write up from him is in the handbook.
Okay.
And it basically, I'll show the letter that I got from him too, if I can ever find this. So I wrote away to the IRS and asked them for a determination on our ability to take tax deductible donations. And they came back and said, because we are a government entity, government entities can take tax deductible donations. Good grief. Tax deductible contributions. Here it is. Let me do a quick screen share so you guys can see it. So this is the one in the new handbook. Let me zoom in a little bit. This is based on that thing that Gary provided to districts. You know, this link is probably broken. Nope, it's not broken. Yay, that's good. That's one link. That's one link that's not broken in the handbook to the DNRC. Of course, now I lost it again. So I have a copy of that letter from the IRS that I can provide to whoever wants to give us a donation. When we helped start the East Helena High School's FFA chapter a few years ago, that's one of the mechanisms we used to help them start that. They didn't have a fund set up at the high school for their FFA chapter or their CTE courses. And we actually had a legislator who had some money left in her campaign fund, and they're limited on how they can get rid of that money or how they can use that money. And so she contacted us and wanted to know if we could take tax deductible donations. And I said, yeah, we can. And I provided her with the letter from the IRS. She gave us what was left in her campaign fund, and then we held that until the school was able to create a fund for the FFA chapter. But we'll take sponsorships from pretty much anybody. We've had individual people sponsor the district. We earmark sponsorships for our education programs. So like the newsletter, any other outreach and education projects that we do, and that sort of thing. But it could be a lot bigger than it is. We used to have a, you guys remember Liz Claiborne, the clothing designer? She and her husband owned a ranch in Lewis and Clark County, the 888 Ranch, and they were a big sponsor of the district for a long time. We got $1,000 a year from them. Veronica put something in the chat. Oh, the bar stuff. Okay, thank you for doing that. Excuse me. So let me see if I can pop up that letter too from the IRS so you guys can see what it looks like.
Chris, where does your PayPal money go? Does it automatically go into your bank account?
Yes, goes right into the checking account. And I get a notice. I get a notice about it anytime that's deposited. I get that notice, so then I can go find that that deposit and record it in QuickBooks. So, I'm having a hard time finding that letter. Hang on a second. I got a new computer in January and I love it, but oof, it's really fun to try to find. I'm having a hard time finding that letter. So then I give people a W-9 if they want one. So they've got our federal ID number. It's not a big deal. It's been really easy to do that. So. Anyway, I don't know. Does anybody have any other questions on that side of things?
I don't think I have any more questions, Chris, but I just wanted to make a comment. I know, say like when our town gets donations and somebody earmarks it for something special, say i.e. the pool, I think that's the only fund that we can use those donations for would be the pool. So I think maybe that might be something to check into, is if these people specify what they want the money to be used for. I don't know if it can just go into the general fund per se.
Hang on a second, folks. I've got somebody who just stopped into the office. Just a minute.
I was going to bring up on that letter that she was talking about. You had to fill out something or send out something to the IRS about that. So we'll have to look for that. If you don't have the letter at I mean, a lot of districts might have already done it. Because I have, we talked about it once and I think a lot of people did it. So you might have that letter in your file somewhere that you've already been designated by the IRS to be able to accept tax deductible contributions. So I maybe look around for it and see if you have it. Did anybody want to sing or dance, How much snow does everybody have? Yeah.
We got a bit of snow last night.
Yeah, I
We
had
got-
snow at my house, but not in town, so I don't know.
We got a stiff.
In a
Just a
matter
little.
of like probably 5 hours, a foot of snow fell.
I'm over it and I want to go to Helena. Dang it.
Jess, is your station open?
Yeah, every other day. We closed early last night because the snow started falling. This morning, I guess it was clear if you were coming from the Lima side, but not if you were coming from the Dillon side. But he texted and said the canyon's kind of icy, and that's the only text I got. And I didn't see it until 2 hours later when I woke up. So I think the station is open today, but probably shouldn't be.
Looked like Donna in Lewistown probably has some snow to report as well.
Yeah, I think her Facebook page this morning said she got like 7 or 8 inches.
Gross.
We had 3 at the house, but there's absolutely not a flake in town. So
That's what
It
it is
is.
here too.
It is wildly snowing up in the air and I can still see all of my green grass. So I think it's as bipolar as I am. Like, I don't know what's going on.
all right, sorry about that. Nothing like asking people to make an appointment before they come in to pick up their wildflower seed and they don't bother to make an appointment. Just gotta love it, right?
Well, we were all just kind of like dead air till we started singing. So
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
Where were we? Oh, earmarks. Yes. You know, we've never had a problem because education is probably, other than salary, education is our biggest outlay of funds. We've never had a problem
We're
with,
talking rain and snow, 7 inches overnight in Lewistown.
we've never had a problem with spending out any sponsorships that have come in. Now, the other thing too is that we will take sponsorships for special events. So on our website last year, we had a separate category on our sponsor page that was a special events category. So if we do willow harvests and we need volunteers and we want to bring coffee and bagels or whatever out to them, we'll go to the local businesses and ask for food donation, drink donations, and figure up the value, and we consider those sponsorships. We donate a backpack sprayer to the Weed Whacker Rodeo every year, but we take it, we get it a free one from Murdoch's here in Helena, and we kind of consider them a special event sponsor. So, you know, if you get creative on that and you're good at asking for money, which I'm not, I suck at it, you can bring in a lot of funding for your district and for different projects for your district. And use your supervisors.
We've just found that our events, of course, with inflation have cost us more and more money. So, and like you, we don't like to go around to the businesses and ask for money all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm getting persuaded to go in the direction of a button on our website. And I'm hoping that since MACD manages our website, that I'm hoping they'll help me do it. So.
Yeah, PayPal buttons are really easy to create, and it's just a matter of inserting the HTML code onto your website in the right spot. I know that Suda, when she was emailing back and forth with me about that for your district, had said that somebody indicated a security concern. I don't know, you guys. PayPal is pretty secure. I've not ever had problems with security with PayPal personally or professionally. We've also used Square, so maybe Square is Squarespace is a place you guys could use, but PayPal is everybody use. It's, I mean, almost everybody uses PayPal. Your button is on that you put on. For those who are not sure what we're talking about when we refer to a button on the website, I'll show you. I actually use it for a nonprofit that I volunteer with in my copious spare time, right? But we have that button, and you can use it on Facebook too. The donation buttons. Okay.
By the way, Chris, your button's not working today.
Seriously?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm telling you.
I wanted to see what happened, so I pushed the button, and it wants me to sign in. It just says something's not right. The page doesn't exist.
Nice. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. So this is what I'm talking. I haven't done anything with this in a long time, so I should probably just log into my PayPal and double check that everything is right on the way the button is configured. So this is what the front end of the website looks like. And if you look at the back end of the website, it's just, oh, this is slow today. All right. Yeah, this is going to take a while. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I mean, I send out the sponsor stuff in the like in January. I'll send that all out to the people who've sponsored us in the past. And usually people just send checks, honestly. I only have people use the PayPal button occasionally, which is probably why I didn't know it was broken. Oh, good grief. Sorry about this, guys.
No, I think it's it's a good exercise. So, and I apologize if we've gotten off topic
No.
of money. I mean,
This
it is
is
still
this is
money.
money. This is money. So if you go in, oh, can you guys still see my website pages that I'm moving around?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. All right. So this is what the HTML side of the website looks like. It's just a matter of figuring out where to paste your text from PayPal. So this is where my text from PayPal is pasted. I just obviously need to go in and double check that something's not wrong with that. But then it ends up looking like this, and you can have little drop downs. And the button is supposed to work, but I figured that out all on my own. So no wonder there's something screwed up with it. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I didn't start the sponsor program for Lewis and Clark. My predecessor did. And so I have all the paperwork that I send out to people who've sponsored us in the past couple of years. I had started something last year where I do recognition to them, not only on the website and on our newsletters, but I also do a Thankful Thursday post on Facebook. I'm not great at getting it done for every Thursday, but I'll do a recognition for our sponsors, for our special event sponsors, for our partners, staff, supervisors, and just do a little blurb about each one. And I go, when I have a spare half hour or 45 minutes, I'll go through and make 3 or 4 of those posts up and schedule them so that I don't have to think about them again for a while. So, I mean, there's a little bit of work involved with having sponsors because you want them to feel like they're appreciated, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's one of the ways I do it. Anything else on sponsors or budgets? Money, financials?
Lexington, Kentucky.
There's got to be some new
gonna
folks on who.
Diane, may I help you?
Yeah, are we gonna talk about our CDA worksheet budget at all? Or did I
I'm
miss
not
that?
because I've never done one. So if somebody else wants to talk about that, you're welcome to.
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess my only question is, and this is probably maybe a pretty generic question. So for our proposed budget for
I have
fiscal
a
year
card.
24, I guess we were told to kind of shoot for the moon, whatever we wanted.
I am.
So I guess I don't know what. I guess I'm just
Diane,
wondering what an excessive ask may be.
Veronica's on from DNRC, and I think she can talk about this a bit.
yeah. So to answer that, we don't know anything. But in terms of asking for more, what I'm seeing and what I'm doing as I'm working one-on-one with folks is the salary line is where you could either, with board approval, increase wages, increase hours, look at a part-time employee. And I think we had that discussion at Dusty's board meeting. So we calculated out like 20 hours a week for another person. And so you could add that there. Another thing is shopping for health insurance and getting like some quotes about what that would cost. And so that's where you would see, I think, the most reasonable, quick
increases in the CDA requests, like, at least that's where you could easily add something that
I am now.
Okay. So Veronica, if I, you know, like if I wanted to look at getting programs on my conservation district laptop, you know, like Word, Adobe, things like that, could I add that to the office equipment expense line, or are we to modify these line items to reflect what we actually are wanting?
Yeah, I think if you add descriptors, and you can even insert a line underneath, you know,
Okay.
something. There is a technology grant through MACD, but I'm not sure how much they have left in that. So certainly I would add that in. And then another big item is liability insurance. Make sure you budget for that. So those are the ones that I could see you guys being able to add in pretty readily into the CDA. And whether or not we get the funding is a different question, but I think that is possible for you to include, and it's not shooting too high, you know.
Okay, but we are allowed to, at some extent, modify these line items in the worksheet to reflect truly what we're going to be spending that money on. Is that,
Yeah.
I mean, am I understanding that right?
Yeah, as long as the formulas still are, you know, like if you insert a line item, just make sure the formula, or yeah, it's still calculating correctly down below. But yeah, that's my understanding. And you can even, like, if you don't want to create another line, you just want to put in parentheses next to it what you're putting in that's a perfect description. But I've seen Mary tell folks to add in, you know, like another person, like salary wise underneath. So that certainly you can modify the budget.
Yeah.
It's
And-
just we want it to calculate correctly down below. So just double check that.
Okay. And I guess just one comment I have, and then I'm sorry, I have to get off this call to make sure I have my payroll done for my supervisor to sign. But, you know, I guess being DNRC is, you know, going through and modifying so many things, it would be nice if the worksheet for the CDA kind of did follow our bars chart of accounts, since
Yeah.
most of us do use the bars now. I find it very frustrating that DNRC is modifying so many applications and so many processes, but yet this one, which is probably the, you know, one of the most important for most of us districts, you know, has fallen through the cracks.
Yeah, and to answer that, I don't know what the future holds in terms of, will we even need a budget worksheet, or will we be able to do something different, like look at your mill levy and get an annual work. But I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like, Diane. I'm not saying I'll definitely bring it up if we keep going with the budget worksheet next year, but it might not even, there might not be even that for the admin grants. It might look very, very different. So trying to make it easier certainly is on their radar. I just don't think that happened this year.
Question in the chat, Veronica.
April
Rebecca Barney
28th.
asked,
It's April 28th and
April
submittable.
28th.
The website wasn't updated, but it is April 28th. That being said, if you need more time realistically, because I know there are a lot of meetings got canceled in April for calving and whatnot. If you submit an application in submittable for your admin grant, I believe we can open it for editing after the 28th. So as long as you get something in there, we can work with you after the 28th, because I know this is really quick turnaround. But yeah, April 15th isn't right. In submittable, it's April 28th.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be wise. I think maybe BNRC should look at the BAR's chart of accounts guidelines and the budget stuff that they have produced and make sure that it's kind of more easily translatable. I hadn't thought about that, but I think the main budget worksheet that you guys have created for most grants, it should work. I don't remember having a lot of problems filling that out, but if the admin grant is different, that might be something to look at.
Yeah, it is different, and I don't know, I think it might change a lot. It might not even be a budget worksheet.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see
Okay.
what'll happen, but Diane, I will definitely, if we keep it, we'll bring up your suggestion.
Thanks, Veronica. Any other financial related topics that you guys have questions on? No question is a dumb question. If you guys have a question, either throw it in the chat or speak now, man.
It's not financial necessarily, but I noticed that Karen Cradle's on. She's the new administrator from Carter County CD, and just wanted to say hi. And if you guys haven't met her yet, yeah, she's on the call. So
anything else, folks? Are we actually going to get done with one of these on time? If you guys think of anything after this, shoot me an email. I'll add it to the list for topics. There is something that came up just recently that I think maybe we need to shift topics for the roundtable, and I haven't looked at the topics yet. But supervisor election stuff next year is a general election. So it might be a good time we might want to do like a primer on supervisor elections toward the end of this fiscal year, or of this calendar year. So I may be shifting some topics around. If you guys have other topics that you want us to do one of these roundtables on, again, just shoot me an email and I'll see what I can do. Anyway, anything else? Rebecca Barney asked if somebody had been selected to replace Haley. Veronica, are you still on?
it is still in the works.
Okay.
Stay tuned on that.
Okay.
There is movement, but
In the meantime, do they contact you guys or you or Steph or Mary? Is that what
the
people are-
Western CDs.
Yeah.
Cassidy, do you know what's happening with that? Who their point of contact is? The Western CDs?
We are meeting tomorrow to discuss that. I would say contact Steph at the moment. But really, if you contact any of us, we can point you in the right direction. And
Yes.
as soon as we do have a decision, we'll be sure to send that out to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. In other Conservation District Administrator news, I did just now received an email from Sarah Busmeyer at Green Mountain. She's resigning. So there's been some issues over there and I don't blame her, but we're going to miss her. She was fun to have around. So. All right. I guess if there's nothing else, then we can adjourn this one, and the area representatives, those who are on would stay on. Not too many of us on. It looks like maybe it's just going to be a few of us. We'll have our little area rep meeting, figure out what's next for us. So thanks, everybody.